Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
I should note in this video that, like yesterday, this ticket was already filled out when they arrived. It was filled out at 11:30 to 11:31, which means that they pre-wrote this ticket and changed the time on the date of the summons. Government has never, ever taken away rights and then willingly given them back, ever. Not in the history of mankind has it ever occurred. So I just hope that Canadian citizens wake up at some point and see that, you know, giving up your rights to the government in hopes that they will protect you is madness. The only person that's going to protect your rights is you.
Today I'm bringing you an update to the story of Phil McClellan. Now, Phil is the owner of the Parlor Tattoos in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and he is frankly at the very top of his industry. However, his industry has been absolutely devastated, not by the coronavirus, but by the coronavirus lockdown, the shutdown implemented by so-called conservative Premier Brian Pallister. Now, Phil came to us through our special website, iwillopen.com. It's a portal for businesses and entrepreneurs who are choosing to defy the lockdown measures in an act of civil disobedience and, in more cases than not, economic survival. Now, you can check out that interview with Phil at iwillopen.com. And in that interview, I promised Phil that if he got a lockdown ticket, that I would help him fight it in court. And guess what? Phil did. Check it out.
Come on, Steve.
So, look at your shop. You're open?
I am.
Okay. I just want to look at a quick look.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Before you go any further, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Have you traveled out of the province in the last 2 weeks?
No, I have not.
Are you feeling any symptoms of COVID-19?
I am
Are you
not.
coming in?
If you don't mind, I'll stand inside.
No, that's fine.
It's a little crowded here.
Okay,
Are you comfortable with that?
yeah, no, I'm fine whether you want to come in.
Okay.
It's up to you.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
We'll maintain our distance, okay?
Have you traveled outside of the province in the last 2 weeks?
No, I haven't.
Are you feeling any symptoms of COVID-19?
No, I'm not.
Have you been around anybody who's tested positive for COVID-19?
I have not.
Okay, awesome. Can you sanitize your hands for me?
Here's your son.
I should note in this video that, like yesterday, this ticket was already filled out when they arrived. It was filled out at 11:30 to 11:31, which means that they pre-wrote this ticket and changed the time on the date of the summons.
I don't see anybody there.
Could you say that a little louder?
Sorry?
Could you say that a little louder?
No, I think I'm done here.
Oh, okay. But you didn't see anybody in the shop.
That's cool.
Perfect.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Our advice remains the same, okay?
Yep. What's up with this letter that I was supposed to receive regarding these extra steps that you guys could take?
Supposed to be coming. That's all I can say.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
See ya.
All right.
So, Phil, it's been about a week or so since we talked and since you made the decision to go public about reopening your tattoo parlor. I guess, first of all, what's the reception been like? Not from the government, but from the normals who care about freedom and small businesses.
Absolutely overwhelming. I can literally count on one hand the amount of negative response I got.
Right.
And most of the negative response was literally centered around people that just were uneducated about how the financial programs were rolled out. And they were more open to receiving, well, how come you're not eligible? What did you do to not be eligible? And you explain it to them and they're like, yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds like what big government does. And then a very smaller percentage of that were the people that it doesn't matter what you tell them, you're a super spreader and
Right.
you need to be hauled off by train to a camp somewhere.
Right.
99.9% of the response, absolutely overwhelming. And we received responses from anywhere there was a lockdown. We got responses from Queensland, Wales, England, parts of the United States. Like anywhere where there was a lockdown in the world, people were messaging, calling the shop, like looking us up online to find the phone number to call the shop to talk. Like it was absolutely incredible.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm so glad to hear it. But unfortunately, while the public supports small business owners who are willing to do exactly what you did in an act of civil disobedience, try to save yourself when you have nothing left to lose, the government came down hard on you.
They absolutely did. And they really resorted to Mafia tactics. It was absolutely incredible to watch. And it just so happened that one of the days, so the first day they came down was the Saturday I opened. They never entered the studio. I was standing on the front step talking with some supporters that had come down. And they asked me if I was open. I said that I was. They said that I was in violation of the Emergency Public Health Act. And I asked them if they could tell me what section I was in violation of. And he couldn't tell me. And I said, okay, well, you know, I understand that you guys are learning this as everybody else goes. Can you provide me with a copy of the Public Health Act and then maybe show me in there? I don't have a copy. I said, okay. He goes, but I think I have one in my car. So he left and he came back with a copy. I have video of it. He spent 10 minutes flipping through a 25-page document, couldn't find the violation, held the whole document up and says, you're in violation. So at that point, I just kind of gave up and said, okay, so what do we do now? He says, somebody will be back at some point in the future to speak to me. He didn't know who that would be or when it would be. The next day.
But it's super important because you could be killing people, apparently. That's their side. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's right. Absolutely. They absolutely did not tell me to shut my doors or force me closed. They just said they'd be back later. That was Saturday. Monday, there was a knock at my door at my residence, and there were 3 Manitoba sheriff's officers and 2 public health inspectors to issue the bylaw ticket, which I thought was odd. I asked everybody to identify themselves. The 3 sheriff's officers didn't want to identify themselves until I was like, well, you're standing on my front yard.
Right.
And I asked them, I said, why are you guys here? Well, we're here to assist those guys. I was like, well, yeah, but my understanding is those guys have badges. So why did they need 3 more badges from a different department to serve me what amounts to a bylaw infraction? They didn't answer, handed the ticket and left. Wednesday, they came to the shop. On Wednesday, it was my actual health inspector that I know personally. Again, they didn't enter the premises. He asked me at the door if I was open. I said, yeah. He said, here, they already had the ticket filled out, I should mention, when they arrived. Handed me the ticket. I said, well, what were you going to do if you got here and there was no violation? Like, what were you going to do with the ticket? Because you clearly have it filled out.
Right.
And he told me to have a nice day and left. Didn't answer. Then the next day, I was actually doing an interview with a journalism student from Red River College. And I was talking to her about this, and she was absolutely aghast. Like, what do you mean they're showing up with these tickets written out already? I'm like, oh, yeah, you're getting a ticket no matter what happens because you're upsetting Brian Pallister. And every time they mentioned my shop in the news conference, you could see it get screw face. So just as I said that, I have a bay window sitting area in my shop where we were doing the interview, and I see them coming down the street, and I said, speak of the devil, here they come. And look, he's got the pink slip in his hand. It's already filled out. So he arrived, asked if I was open. I said yes. He said this time that he needed to inspect the premises. And I said, yep, no problem, come on in. So he came in, he tried to skip the protocols of, have you been out of the province? Have you traveled? Are you feeling ill? You been around anybody test positive? Did an extremely poor job of sanitizing his hands on video. Did the walkthrough, came back and then mumbled to his supervisor, there's nobody here and they're not tattooing. And I said, well, can you say that a little louder for my camera? He said, no, we're done here. I said, okay, then just to confirm, I've allowed you in to inspect the premises. There's no one here and there's no tattooing going on. And he said, yeah, and left. So no matter what occurred, I was getting a ticket.
Yeah.
At no time did they ever witness anybody ever being in here or anybody getting tattooed. And yet they still came with tickets already filled up. Another development since then, I've temporarily closed my doors again. The stress on my family has been absolutely immense. There were things that came into play we didn't realize were coming. The government, not really a big deal. I mean, it's a little stressful, but it's the government. They made all kinds of vague threats. There's other provisions in the Public Health Act that we can use to close you down. I asked what those were on camera, what those were. They said, I'm not at liberty to speak on it. I said, well, but you just did.
Yeah.
You literally just threatened me with it. And now you're not going to tell me what that threat entails.
Yeah.
The real stress came from a very small portion of the population making threats against my family, threats of violence against my business, publishing my address, stuff like that. And for me personally, not a big deal. I'm an old school guy. You want to come to my house and, bring some type of violence upon my family, I'll leave you where I find you. But my family was stressed about it, and my family comes first.
Yeah. Well, and these thugs are going to come and make threats against your family of violence in the interest of public safety. That's the warped mentality of these people.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And we see this daily. I mean,
yeah.
There was a protest rally in Steinbach on Sunday, I think it was. Yeah. And they handed out tickets to everybody and their dog for protesting. And you can see the footage. Everybody, I mean, are they purposely socially distancing? Probably not. But there's lots of room in between the people that are down there peacefully protesting. That same day, they threw a DJ party at the Forks Market on the ice, where there's 1,000 people standing shoulder to shoulder and not a single ticket was handed out. Not one. So, I mean, it just shows that, if you speak out against the government's going to do absolutely everything they can to crush you underneath their heel. But if you're being compliant, they'll let you have your little parties to keep you quiet and keep you in line with what the party line is. And I find it absolutely disgusting that Canadian citizens, whether on purpose or because they've been brainwashed into believing it, think that this is acceptable behavior from our politicians to advocate this type of behavior on other citizens. It's madness. It's absolute crazy at this point.
Well, Phil, I want to make sure that you're taken care of. I know that you have thousands of dollars in fines now because you chose to open. The government has already destroyed your business. When we talked the first time, I promised you, if you get a ticket, we're going to help you through fightthefines.com. And you've graciously accepted our offer of help. So we are going to put you in touch with a top criminal lawyer who's going to take your fines to court. We don't want you to pay them because we think we need to teach Brian Pallister a lesson, and you just might be the guy to do it.
Well, I'd never give them a penny of my money, even if it came down to it and I lost. They'd have to put me in jail first because I'm not going to comply with this madness of just do what I say because I said so. This is crazy. They've completely disregarded. I hear these arguments about, and I tell people, like, these are charter problems. These are charter problems, and people say, I don't believe you. Tell me how your charter rights are being violated. And the first thing they jump to is, you're an anti-masker. And I say, I'm not an anti-masker. I wear a mask in my place of business, not because I believe that it protects me, but because it makes my clients feel better. Yeah. And if that's what it takes to make my clients feel comfortable, I'm willing to do it in order to be able to work. I said, but you're ignoring things like they're telling you what family can and can't be in your home.
Yeah.
Well, I'm willing to give that up if they're going to protect me. I said, then you do not understand the way government works. Government has never, ever taken away rights and then willingly given them back, ever. Not in the history of mankind has it ever occurred. So I just hope that Canadian citizens wake up at some point and see that, you know, giving up your rights to the government in hopes that they will protect you is madness. The only person that's going to protect your rights is you.
I think it's an absolute abomination that a good guy, a hardworking guy like Phil, who cares about his family and his employees, first has to break the law because it's a bad law. But then secondarily, now Phil has to worry about the safety of his family and friends because of the threats from out-of-control COVID Karens who feel empowered by the malicious slander and libel of the government against people like Phil. But like I said, we're helping Phil fight back. We're helping him fight his ticket at no cost to him through fightthefines.com. If you're like Phil and you've received a lockdown ticket, reach out to us there. And if you haven't received a lockdown ticket or have yet to receive a lockdown ticket, but you want to help people like Phil who have received one just for, I don't know, living their lives, running their businesses, just trying to have a little bit of normalcy or even protesting the lockdown, you can help fund our legal fight to protect civil liberties at that same website, fightthefines.com. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. If you've received a lockdown ticket, don't pay it, fight it. Plead not guilty and send it to us at fightthefines.com and we'll put you in touch with a top criminal lawyer. And if you'd like to help fund our battle to protect civil liberties during the coronavirus lockdown, you can do that too there at fightthefines.com.